If you were to look at a time lapse of a human body, like exactly 20 minutes after putting out a final cigarette, you wouldn't see this slow, peaceful, gradual recovery.
No, definitely not. You'd see a pretty violent, immediate biological rebellion.
Right. It's as if someone just reaches in and violently yanks the hands of the clock backward. I mean, these tiny paralyzed structures whip back to life.
Yeah, blood vessels just snap open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The body essentially goes to war to reclaim its own territory.
Because it is a massive, exhausting construction project. I think, we tend to view quitting as a subtraction, like just taking a habit away.
Yeah, you're losing something.
Right, but on a cellular level, it's actually an aggressive, hyperactive regeneration process.
And that unseen battlefield is exactly what we are mapping out for you today in this deep dive. I'm your host, and joined by our resident expert, we've got a really fascinating stack of medical literature in front of us today.
We really do.
It details tobacco's systemic impact. And we're pairing that with this highly granular tracker that the sources call the smoker's calendar.
Which is such a cool concept. It lays out the exact physiological and psychological timeline of quitting over a full year.
Because millions of people put themselves through this gauntlet, but very few actually understand the microscopic mechanics of what is happening to them, hour by hour.
And the stakes couldn't be higher for you. Just to give you a sense of the payoff waiting at the end of this timeline, within just 1 year of quitting, your risk of coronary heart disease drops by a massive 50%.
Wait, half?
Half in just 12 months.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we have to start at the absolute beginning, right? The immediate shock to the system.
Day one.
Right, day one, which is often described as this period of emotional lift. People feel this wave of false confidence, almost a euphoria.
Yeah, with surprisingly low cravings.
Which is weird. I understand the psychological relief of, making a big decision, but biologically, that false high doesn't make much sense to me.
How so?
Well, if you just cut off a profound chemical dependency, should the body be in an absolute panic from minute one?
You would think so, yeah. But the panic is temporarily masked by an incredible surge of oxygen.
Ah, okay.
See, when you smoke, carbon monoxide floods your system. And carbon monoxide has an affinity for your red blood cells that is roughly 200 times stronger than oxygen.
200 times.
Yeah.
That is wild.
It essentially hijacks your bloodstream. It aggressively binds to your hemoglobin and just refuses to let go. So your cells are perpetually suffocating.
Wow.
But within hours of your last cigarette, that carbon monoxide level just plummets.
So the oxygen finally has empty seats on the bus, so to speak. It can actually get to the tissues.
Precisely. Your oxygen levels surge back to normal incredibly fast.
And that's why they feel good.
Right. That sudden flood of oxygen to a brain that has been chronically deprived is why some people actually feel, slightly dizzy or lightheaded on that first day.
Like an oxygen high.
Exactly.
It totally makes me think of the start of a marathon. Like you cross the starting line, you're running on pure adrenaline, the crowd is cheering, you think, I could run forever.
Right, this is easy.
Yeah. But you're running on a completely unsustainable high. Because the biological bill always comes due.
Always.
And by the 48-hour mark, that false confidence shatters.
Yeah, that brings us to the phase known as the lamka, which is a term for fierce, acute nicotine starvation. This is the moment the true withdrawal actually hits.
The physiological symptoms here sound utterly miserable from what I'm reading.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a fierce, tearing cough, severe shortness of breath.
Then raw irritability.
Yeah. But if the body is supposed to be healing, why does it feel like your respiratory system is completely failing?
Well, that cough is actually a masterpiece of biological engineering.
Really? A masterpiece?
Seriously. It's a vital sign of life returning to your lungs. To understand it, we have to look at the ciliated epithelium.
Now?
The ciliated epithelium. These are microscopic, hair-like structures that line your entire respiratory tract. Their whole purpose is to constantly sweep back and forth.
Pushing things out.
Right, pushing mucus, dirt, bacteria, all of it upward and out of your airways.
Like millions of tiny brooms.
Exactly like tiny brooms. But tobacco smoke, specifically the heavy tar, acts like a toxic glue.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. It stuns and paralyzes those cilia, essentially laying them flat and locking them in place.
So they can't sweep.
Right. But the moment the smoke is gone for a solid 48 hours, that paralysis wears off.
Oh, wow.
These tiny hairs wake up and start sweeping frantically, trying to clear out years of accumulated tar, dead cells, and debris.
That completely flips the script on how we view a cough. I mean, it isn't a sign you're getting sicker.
No,
It's the physical act of your lungs cleaning house. It's an active eviction process.
Exactly. And the regeneration isn't limited to the lungs either.
No.
Down in your gut, the intestinal mucosa, the delicate lining of your intestines, is already actively repairing itself.
So the body wastes zero time.
Zero.
Now, because the physical and emotional state is so incredibly volatile right now, there is a crucial piece of practical advice to pull from the literature for this specific 48-hour window.
Yeah, this is important.
Keep a diary. Write down exactly why you quit and meticulously track your feelings.
Because when that Lanka hits, your brain chemistry is panicking. Logic just goes out the window.
Right. You need a physical external anchor to remind you of your own motivation when your internal systems are literally screaming for a chemical hit.
Externalizing that motivation is vital because you are about to enter a phase where your brain actively tries to sabotage you.
Which brings us to a really fascinating transition. Here's where it gets really interesting. Once you survive that initial physiological demolition, the body enters a strange new phase. The physical structures are making massive repairs, but the brain, starved of its usual chemical reward, starts playing nasty tricks.
Very nasty. By the middle of the first week, the physical craving for nicotine might, slightly dull, but the psychological dependence flares up aggressively.
Because the central nervous system is in chaos.
Total chaos. It is forcing itself to adapt to an oxygen-rich, nicotine-free environment while entirely rewiring its neurotransmitter reward pathways.
And it produces some bizarre side effects.
Yeah.
Like, there is a symptom noted around the 4th day where people report feeling a thick, viscous lump right in the back of their throat.
Yeah, that's a common one.
What is mechanically happening there?
So that is your bronchial secretion system physically reorganizing itself.
Okay.
Without the constant searing heat and chemical irritation of inhaled smoke, the very consistency of the mucus in your airways changes.
It gets thicker.
It becomes thick and viscous because it is actively binding to dead tissue and deeply embedded toxins to carry them out.
It's forming a biological trash bag.
That's a great way to put it, yeah, a trash bag.
At the same time, the vascular system is throwing its own tantrums, right? Blood pressure jumps erratically.
Yes, and people might experience tinnitus, like a persistent ringing in the ears.
Why the ringing?
Well, nicotine is a powerful vasoconstrictor. It artificially squeezes your blood vessels tight.
Okay.
So when you remove it, those vessels dilate and relax. This completely changes the blood flow dynamics to your brain and your auditory nerves.
Oh, I see.
The turbulent rush of blood through those newly widened vessels is often interpreted by the brain as a ringing sound.
That makes so much sense. All of this mechanical stress, though, it culminates in a massive emotional trough. Like, by day 5, that marathon runner motivational high is just vaporized.
Gone.
Interestingly, though, the sources note that the microcracks on your tongue are actively healing.
What's fascinating here is that smoke literally creates microscopic burns and fissures across the surface of the tongue.
Just burning the taste buds.
Yeah, dulling them completely. As those microcracks seal up, your sensory perception starts to actually come back online.
So your sense of taste is returning, even though you generally feel terrible.
Exactly.
Because aggression, nervousness, and a complete lack of self-control peak around day 6.
The sheer exhaustion of managing a medical withdrawal takes its toll.
I mean, there's no biological prize for white-knuckling through peak aggression. So consulting a doctor for mild sedatives or calming medications is a highly recommended strategy during this window.
Treating the symptoms is just smart strategy. You wouldn't ignore a fever, right?
Right.
So you shouldn't ignore the severe neurological friction of withdrawal.
And if you don't manage it, you hit the danger zone of day 7.
Day 7 is tough.
The wet cough has fully developed, but psychologically, a deep, heavy apathy sets in. You are just utterly drained.
And when apathy hits, your defenses are at absolute zero. If a cigarette is within arm's reach, your brain won't have the energy to fight the impulse.
Right. The mandate here is absolute. Physically remove every single trigger from your environment.
Lighters, ashtrays.
The emergency pack in the glove box.
Yes, all of it. You have to make relapsing incredibly inconvenient.
You're just trying to put as much physical distance as possible between an impulse and an action.
Exactly.
So we survive the first week. The sharpest edges of the physical withdrawal start to dull. But recovering your senses brings both new joys and some very subtle new dangers.
That's right.
Moving into the second week, it's like the world suddenly switches to HD.
The olfactory receptors, which, have been suppressed and chemically burned for years, they finally turn back on.
And people often report being overwhelmed by how vivid the world smells.
Yeah, suddenly you remember the complex scent of rain on pavement,
And food suddenly tastes like an absolute revelation.
which introduces a massive reality check.
Right, because food tastes incredible. And because your stomach lining has significantly healed by the second week, your appetite skyrockets.
Your body is demanding vast amounts of energy to fuel all this cellular regeneration.
And you're swapping one dopamine hit nicotine for another dopamine hit sugar and fats.
Yep. This is the exact moment where the risk of significant weight gain really spikes. It is a profound metabolic vulnerability.
But I have a huge question about this phase. The literature points out that by the second week, the actual smell of tobacco smoke becomes physically disgusting to the person quitting.
Right. The recovered senses reject it.
So, if the smoke smell is abhorrent to them, why is the risk of relapse still so incredibly high right at the 2-week mark?
Because of a psychological trap the literature perfectly identifies. It's called the illusion of control.
The illusion of control.
Right around the major 2-week milestone, the brain starts whispering. It says, look at us. We did it.
We went 2 whole weeks.
Exactly. The physical withdrawal is over. We are completely in control. Let's just have one single cigarette.
Just one, to remember the taste.
Or to prove to ourselves that we don't need it anymore.
Oh, that's so sneaky. Like, it's just an experiment. It won't ruin 2 weeks of progress.
The brain tries to reframe a relapse as an innocent victory lap. But if you take that drag, you are injecting nicotine right back into receptors that have just barely begun to downregulate.
Wow.
The entire chemical hook resets instantly. You were basically pulling the fire alarm just as the fire department was finally packing up their hoses to leave.
So the warning to you, the listener, is absolute here. Do not believe yourself. It is never a test. It is always a relapse.
Always. And if you can navigate that trap, you cross a major threshold. The acute nicotine withdrawal officially ends.
Which shifts us into the long game.
The long game, yeah.
We are moving out of the hour-by-hour survival mode and into deep systemic architectural renovation over the next 6 months.
The heavy lifting really begins inside the organs now.
And I find it wild to think about the liver in all this. Like, we hyper-focus on the lungs, naturally, but reading through these medical charts, the liver is essentially the unsung hero.
It really is. It has been running a 247 hazardous waste processing plant for years.
Working relentless overtime.
Yeah, filtering heavy metals, formaldehyde, and hundreds of other toxic compounds out of the blood.
But as we move into month 3 and 4, the liver is finally off the clock for that emergency filtration.
Right. It begins a profound regeneration process, actually repairing its own tissues and hepatocytes.
And the supply lines to all these organs are finally opening up too. By month 3, vascular tone returns to normal.
Yes. The blood vessels are no longer subjected to the chemical stress test of constricting violently 20 times a day.
They can just relax.
They relax. They regain their natural elasticity. And this dramatically improves circulation to the extremities, which is why people stop having constantly cold hands and feet.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay.
And by month 4, the digestive system fully stabilizes.
Yeah, that initial threat of massive weight gain starts to level off.
Because the metabolism finally finds its new, healthy baseline.
Exactly. And at the exact same time, the lungs are actively expanding their capacity.
Because the chronic low-grade inflammation in the bronchial tubes has subsided so much that there's physically more room for air to flow.
Which leads to one of the most remarkable physiological milestones, honestly.
Month 6.
Yes. By month 6, the blood itself is entirely renewed.
Completely new blood.
Red blood cells have a life cycle of roughly 120 days. So by the half-year mark, the cells circulating in your vascular system have never been exposed to cigarette smoke.
Never.
They are pristine, highly efficient oxygen carriers.
That is profound. You are literally circulating clean blood. And the psychological shift mirrors this deep physical healing.
It does.
At 6 months, the person finally feels genuinely, organically energetic. They aren't faking it with stimulants anymore.
The outward physical markers of the habit are erased, too.
Yeah, the yellow stains on the fingers have completely faded, and a healthy, oxygen-rich complexion has returned to their face.
They look and feel like a different person because structurally and cellularly, they literally are.
They are. But the journey has one final, very subtle danger zone.
The final boss.
The final boss.
Yeah.
And the final boss of quitting smoking isn't physical at all. The body is largely healed. The final boss is memory.
Memory, yeah.
As we move into months 7 through 10, we encounter a phenomenon we can call smoker's amnesia.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, during this window, the physical damage is so thoroughly repaired that the person forgets the pain.
Right. The quote-unquote smoker's vocal cords heal, and that harsh rasp disappears.
The suffocating morning cough is just a distant memory.
But human memory is deeply flawed, isn't it?
Very. We are biologically wired to forget pain as a survival mechanism.
So because the person feels so incredibly healthy at month 8 or 9, they genuinely forget the misery of the habit,
They forget the panic of not being able to breathe.
the lingering smell on their
It's a
clothes.
financial drain.
It is state-dependent memory. They are in a healthy state, so they can't vividly recall the sick state.
And the brain, which still holds on to these deeply buried behavioral loops, it takes advantage of this amnesia.
It starts serving up highly realistic, vivid dreams where the person is smoking.
Oh yeah, you wake up in an absolute panic, convinced you actually relapsed.
And slowly, a romanticized illusion creeps in. The thought process becomes, smoking wasn't actually that bad.
I enjoyed it.
I miss it.
Right. The brain romanticizes the ritual because the severe physical consequences are no longer present to serve as a deterrent.
It's exactly like looking at a toxic ex-partner through rose-colored glasses.
That is a perfect analogy.
You only remember the good times, the comfort, the familiarity. You completely block out the screaming matches and the reasons you broke up in the first place.
Exactly. But if you can recognize that mirage for what it is and navigate through it, you reach month 11.
Which is true freedom.
True freedom.
Thoughts of smoking become extremely rare. And when they do pop up, they are easily, almost casually, brushed aside. Psychological dependence is officially defeated.
Which brings us to the ultimate payoff. The 1-year victory.
The statistics surrounding the 1-year mark are just staggering.
At exactly 12 months, the body has achieved a state of fundamental healing. The cellular turnover is complete, the lungs are functioning cleanly, the liver is repaired.
And the vascular system is relaxed.
Right. But the paramount statistic from the medical literature is cardiovascular. The risk of developing coronary heart disease is now slashed by exactly 50% compared to when the person was smoking.
So what does this all mean? The endothelial function is restored, the plaque stabilization has occurred, the heart is fundamentally safer. What this all proves is that no matter your age, and no matter how many decades the damage was being done, the human body's capacity for forgiveness and regeneration is practically miraculous.
Provided, of course, it is given the time, the oxygen, and the environment to do so.
Yeah, just need you to stop dropping bombs on the construction site.
Well said. And for anyone listening, it's vital to remember that understanding this timeline is a tool. Knowing the mechanics behind the misery changes your relationship with the withdrawal.
Right. When you know that a sudden wave of heavy apathy on day 7 isn't a personal failure, but a predictable, scheduled biological event caused by neurotransmitter rewiring.
It takes the fear out of it.
A phantom craving wrapped in nostalgia on day 14 isn't a sign of weakness. It's just a biological trap set by down-regulating receptors.
It's just a phase of the renovation. You can look at your diary, acknowledge the physiological symptom for what it is, and know with absolute certainty that it will pass.
You are just watching the clock hand spin backwards. We've mapped a brutal but beautiful path today.
We really have.
From the false, oxygen-flooded high of day 1 through the violent physical lomka where the lungs fiercely cough themselves clean. We navigated the sensory awakening and the dangerous illusions of the second week.
And we watched the deep cellular, vascular, and organ regeneration unfold over 12 months.
Culminating in that massive 50% drop in heart disease risk. We've seen how incredibly hard the body fights to rebuild your lungs, your blood, and your liver the absolute second you remove a toxic habit.
That's amazing.
It really makes you wonder, what other hidden regenerative superpowers does your body have right now just waiting for you to get out of its way?